Hello and welcome to another video. I'm Tally and I have a lip stain problem. Do I already have way too many lip stains? Did that stop me from going on to SheGlam and buying every single lip stain that they have? No, it did not. So I'm going to rate them and we're going to figure out which lip stain is actually worth your money. All of these are pretty inexpensive. Everything was under $5. So everything gets, affordability as a score. So we're not going to go judge them based off of that. Instead, we're going to look at longevity, versatility, and then universal, how pigmented it is. So if it will show up on lots of different skin tones, and then formula. So those four things, that's just it, right? Yeah, just those four things. And whoever has the average highest score will win. So the first one I tried out was this bad boy, and this is a little jelly lip stain, and you can scroll, roll it back in, scroll. So I like that. You don't get a lot of product, although I imagine there's still some product in there that you can dig out. Let me see here, does it say on here? Ounces. It's 0.35 ounces. Doesn't seem like a lot. Let me compare it. It's not too bad because blushes, when they come like this, is 0.19. So this is actually a lot more product. So not too bad. It just doesn't look like a lot. Longevity, I would say I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It wasn't the craziest long-lasting formula I've seen, but it was definitely not the worst. I could still see remnants of it, especially on my lips. My cheeks, I don't think it stayed quite as pigmented, but that's kind of the course of things. I was just using them by themselves a lot of times. When I put it on my cheeks, I will do a powder blush on top of it, and then a setting powder, and then a setting spray, and that's usually what helps the blush to last, all day when you're putting a lip stain on your cheeks and trying to just get a longer lasting formula or stain power. But this one wasn't too bad, so, and especially for just using it by itself on its own. I will say I think it stained the lips better than it stained the skin on my cheek. So I gave that one a 7 out of 10. And then for versatility, again, it's 7 out of 10. It wasn't too bad. It was a little difficult to use on the lips just because this is so big. You can't really get into the corners, but you can get a brush out and get into the corners of your lips. It's more better for the cheeks because of how big it is, and I found that I could put it directly onto my cheeks without any problem. Sometimes, you have to put it on a brush and you can't put it directly onto your cheeks, but this seemed to be fine. Universal, I would give it only a 5 out of 10 just because she's not very pigmented. Lost some points there for that. It's very sheer. It's somewhat buildable, but I wouldn't say it's enough to where if you have a deeper skin tone that it would show up. So that's my only concern, is that this isn't going to show up on everybody. Formula was a 7 out of 10. It was pretty easy to blend out, not drying, and some lip stains can be quite drying. This one wasn't too bad, and it didn't settle into any of the fine lines of my lips and just wear kind of patchy, because when that happens, you can get pigment into areas where you don't really want it, and it can just look really patchy on the lips. This was good for that, I would say. And this does say that it's a tint, but if you go through and you read around the different descriptions, it does say that it stains, and I will say that it did stain my lips quite well. Not as good on the cheeks, but again, I think if I had done my whole routine that I normally do with setting it with powder and then a setting spray, it probably would have lasted quite a while. but I just wanted to judge it on its own, not in combination with others. So let's look and see the average score for this one. And this is the Jelly-licious Hydrating Lip and Blush Tint. I don't think I said that before. And I got the shade Cheerio, which is like supposed to be like a hot, like pink type thing, or baby pink. I don't know which one. So this one gets an average score of 6.5 out of 10, which I would say I agree with. It was okay. It was kind of just middle of the road. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't, amazing, mind-blowing either. Alrighty, now we have the peel stain. I usually typically don't really care or like these. I'm just too lazy. But it's really not that different than having to like wipe a stain off, but I like to wear stains that I don't have to wipe it off because I like full pigment, but sometimes formulas call for you to wipe them off just so it doesn't settle into the lines and crevices of your lips. So this is the Peel Talk Lip Tint, and it is a stain. Let me see here. So for longevity, I gave this one an 8 out of 10. And part of that, I think, is because it's so pigmented. It's just really easy to see that your lips are still stained. So, but I was definitely still wearing this at the end of the day. Utility, I gave it only a 5 out of 10, just because you can't put this on your cheeks. I didn't even try to do it just because I know what it's going to be like. When you try to put the peel and stick ones on your cheeks, it's really, really difficult to blend the product out. It is possible, but you really have to sit there and like scrub away at your skin. You might get some micellar water, and you have to try to blur the edges, and it's just more hassle than it works. I know that influencers like making videos doing it, but they don't really show you the process of trying to get it to blend out and look good. It's quite difficult. Maybe for some underpainting, you put foundation over the top, then it would work, but it's not. There's other stains that you could use on your cheeks that it's a little bit easier and won't disrupt any base that you put on before. But for it being universality, is that a word? I gave it a 9 out of 10 just because it is pigmented. I would say this is the strongest one, the most pigmented one that SheGlam has. If you have a deeper skin tone, this is definitely going to be the one that you're going to want to get. They don't have quite as big of a shade range, unfortunately, but the pigment is there for sure. But I will say that it was very drying to the lips. I almost immediately had to put on a lip oil just because my lips felt so dry and dehydrated. So I was going back and forth, like, is that enough to knock it down to like a 6 or a 7 or an 8? Because that was my only thing about this formula, is that it was drying, and I didn't like that, but the lip oil fixed it in, and then it was fine. So I'll say a 7 out of 10. All right, and that gives us an average for the peel lip tint of 7.25, so 7.25 out of 10. So far, that one is winning. The peel stick is number 1, and then the SheGlam lip and blush one is at number 2. But we still have 3 other lip stains to look at, so that could change. Alright, so the next one I tried is this SheGlam Grapefruit, and it is for the Flush Lip and Cheek Tint. And I got the color Fruit Punch. And I have it on now. I actually have a combination of the lip stains on. I use this as the base because it's a lot more pigmented than this one, which we'll get to in a little bit. This cute little bottle kind of reminds me of a nail polish bottle, but we're not ranking or anything on packaging. I do like this one. So for longevity, I would say it got I went back and forth between, like, is it a 7 or an 8, 7 or an 8. I don't think it was quite as good as the peel one, but the peel one was so good because it was like red and you could really see it. At the end of the day, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely still wearing something. This one, the color is a little bit more subtle, but I could definitely still see it, so I'm going to give it the same score as the other one, an 8 out of 10. Then for versatility, it definitely an 8 out of 10. It blended on the cheeks beautifully. I'm actually wearing it on my cheeks right now, and so I really like it for that standpoint. Being universal, it is pigmented. I do question, is it pigmented enough? It's not quite as pigmented as the peel one, and part of that could be the shade, but if you look at the other shades for this one, they're definitely more muted shades. So if you like more muted stuff and not as bright, this may be for you, but that can mean that maybe it won't show up on more deeper skin tones. So I would say I was going to give this one, I don't think it deserves a 9 out of 10 like the peel one, so we'll give it another 8 out of 10. So far, she's just getting 8 out of 10s out of the board. I really actually like this one. All right, and then formula, she was a little trying, I would say, but that's kind of common for lip stains. Lip stains can be drying. It can be difficult to find a formula that isn't drying, although I will say this tint one, this one wasn't too drying, but I didn't like how sheer the formula was, which is why I gave that one a 7 out of 10. This is not sheer. This has pigment, so probably should also get an 8 out of 10. Man, so I don't even have to do any math for this one because she got 8 out of 10s right out of the board. And you have to realize that some of this is just personal preference too, and what I liked and found. You may use these and just completely disagree with how I rated them. All right, the next one is a pen. I've never used one like this, so I was very curious to see how this would work. They actually call it a marker. Kind of does remind me more of a marker. It's a Love Stained Lip Tint Marker. And this, again, I think they only had like 3 different shades of this one. And I got the more muted one because I thought I'd like it better for using it as a liner if it was a little bit more muted. So it would just kind of blend into my natural lips, so you can do a little bit of overline. So for longevity, it was kind of just middle of the road. So 7 out of 10. Wasn't anything, wasn't bad, but it wasn't, like amazing either. I could still see it, like a slight remnant of it at the end of the day. And notice what I'm saying at the end of the day. This is like 12 to like 14 hours worth of wear. So it's a long day. Naturally, if you're just doing like a 6-hour day, it's probably would be a lot better for longevity. Versatility, I would say that it's very difficult to use on the cheeks just because of all the shading you would have to do, but you can kind of rub and blend a little bit, but you can still see the harsh lines there, so you're going to have the same problem with the peel and stick one where you can't really get those nice feathered edges, and rubbing it and rubbing it and rubbing it and rubbing it with a cotton thing helps, but not really. So for being universal, I'm going to give it the same score that I gave the peel one, which was a 5 out of 10. Versatility. For being universal, I do think that it has the potential to work for different variety of skin tones because it is pigmented. It might, though, depend on the color that you choose, and there wasn't a huge color selection, so that can also play into it. So kind of give it a middle of the road 7 out of 10. And then formula, not a bad formula. Wasn't really drying. It was a little drying, but not too bad. And so I would say that the formula also gets us a 9 out of 10. Wasn't too bad, which means it's going to tie with the other one, getting a 6.5 out of 10 for same as this bad boy, so they're a tie. However, I will say my pretty big critique is that the tip of the pen, so the very, very tip right there, it doesn't really have a lot of product into it. You start using it and then it loses product, and then so it can be difficult to get really sharp, precise lines because the tip goes through the product really fast, and then you gotta sit there and be like this and wait for the product to go back into the tip. So I'm going to remove half a point for that, so it gets a 6 out of 10 instead of a 6.5 out of 10, just because to me the whole point of it being a marker and a pen is to get a really precise, sharp line and really get some precision outlining with it. And because the tip can't really seem to hold and keep product into it, it loses that function. All right, so then last but not least, we're finally at the end. We have the wonderful SheGlam. Let's see, what's the full name? It just says lip tint. So that's very exciting. All right, but I got this in the shade Mocha Loca. The pen, I got that one in the shade It Girl, for anybody who's wondering, because I don't think I said. But this one is Mocha Loca, and I thought it was going to be a little bit oranger than it is. And not that it isn't a pretty color, it just doesn't quite look like the product photos. And I've bought other ones from them where I've noticed that too. Like I got this one, the lip tint, in this shade Cheeky, and just from the product photos, I thought this was going to be a berry. I would go maybe more of a mauve than a berry. Here, I'm gonna put it right here. There it is. But when I was looking at the product photos, I thought for sure Cheeky was going to be closer to a berry, which we can look at the e.l.f. lip stain one. And you can see that that's more of a true berry. This one is kind of pinky. Maybe you could say it's a little bit of a mauve. It's a little bit of purple in it, but it's very light. And because it's so light, you can see the e.l.f. stain, but you can barely see the sheen one. And that's one thing I noticed with this one as well. There's not as much pigment payoff with this, so it's a really pretty like lip product, but from a staining perspective, which goes into the longevity of it, it's like I could kind of still see it, but it's not, like really, really shocking or noticeable or anything. That here. Should we see how well it actually just stains my skin? We'll do a little experiment here. Let it soak into my skin, but maybe I was going back and forth. Should I give it a 6 for longevity or a 7 for longevity? A part of it is, I think the formula is just not as pigmented, so which does affect the longevity of it, because you can't, when it wears down, you can't really see it. Now, if you don't have pigmented lips, you probably will be able to see it better, but I do have more pigmented lips, so I can't really see it. So just maybe we'll go we'll go 6 out of 10. There, you can see it just not quite as staining, has the staining power compared to like other ones, like the e.l.f. ones. I didn't even have the e.l.f. one on my skin that long. I definitely had this one on my skin for a lot longer. Let me see, versatility. It's great for being able to put it on your cheeks. So it is possible to put on your cheeks. The glossy formula, I didn't mind too much. If you're oily, you may not like it, and it would probably be better to use one like this than a glossy formula. But I personally did like it on the cheeks, and I thought it blended really beautifully. But again, at the end of the day, I couldn't really tell that I had it on my cheeks anymore. So I think we'll give that a middle of the road one, being a 6 out of 10. I don't think it quite deserves a 5 because you can put it on your cheeks. It's just, you can't see it at the end of the day. For it being universal, because it's not as pigmented as it could be, I question how people with deeper skin tones, how it will wear and how it will look, just because there's not really a ton of pigment. And looking at the colors online, there does seem to be a discrepancy. I mean, I noticed that with the e.l.f. ones too. It's like, this doesn't look like how it looks on the product photos. Like, how did they get that color for the product photos? I have no idea. But, so, I would say maybe just a 7 out of 10, because this one does have the widest shade range. So there's tons of different colors to choose from. So hopefully from that standpoint, you'd be able to find a color that would work on deeper skin tones. Formula, I love the formula. It's not drying at all. So very, very comfortable to wear. It's just a little lacking in pigment is all. So I really do like the formula. Maybe went back and forth between, should I just knock a point off for being sheer, or should I knock 2 points off for being sheer? Looks like I gave a 7 out of 10 for the other ones that were a little bit sheer, but it wasn't drying. And it didn't settle into any of my lip lines. Should I get a 7 or an 8? I think I'm gonna go with a 7, just because the sheerness of it really almost makes you feel like you're not putting on a lip stain, just because you can't really see the effects of it. Now, some people may like that it's not like wham bam in your face. I like to see what I actually put on my skin at the end of the day. So I think this one's probably going to end up being... So this one got a 6.5 out of 10 as well, so ended up tying with this bad boy. Okay, so that means the winner of this lip stain, the lip stain that I recommend the most, is this Grapefruit one. And they don't quite have as many shades. Hopefully maybe they can get some more shades, but I really do like this with the formula. And it's kind of just your, really basic everyday water lip stain, but one thing with the water ones is you can wear them pretty much underneath any lipstick, lip product, and when that lip product wears off, you still have this on underneath. And I found that the water ones are the best ones to kind of do that with, to wear underneath. However, I would say if you really want something that's really pigmented, I would get this one, because this one has pigment and you'll be able to see that you have something on all day. Those are definitely my top 2 I would recommend. The other ones is kind of just up to you if you would like to try them or not. But I would say if you're gonna get any of them from SheGlam, get this one or get this one. And yeah, I'm kind of upset that this one didn't do better. But again, the color isn't there. It's not as pigmented. It's, it's not like wearing a lip gloss as opposed to a lip stain. And I think a better glossy formula to get would be the e.l.f. ones, if you want that, if you like the glossy formulas. Alright, so I hope this helped, and if you're interested in looking at SheGlam for a lip stain, I will say that this is probably the cheapest lip stain that you can get without going like onto Temu and getting something for, $1. But SheGlam does run sales and stuff, and sometimes you can get things for even cheaper than what they're initially advertised, because you can look in your cart and they'll like take a few like dollars off or something like that, which is always a nice, wonderful surprise. But I will see you guys in the next one, and I definitely don't need to buy any lip stains, probably for like, realistically, like the next 5 years. Well, I should get like a shelving unit so I can display all my lip stains. Okay. Okay. Alright. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.